Well, just like Tucker Carlson said and President Trump said, that Putin is a genius, and he is a genius. He's playing the rest of the world chess where Biden is playing checkers.
Is it really genius, though, if Putin finds his troops overextended? I mean, they're already facing a lot more casualties than they thought.
Well, if you believe what you see and read all the time, you may be right or you may not be right. Putin could have put in his freshman forces out there versus his sophomore JV or varsity. So
and that would be a genius thing to do?
It's a genius thing for him, the way he's taking control as a leader of the rest of Europe.
Isn't Putin so great? I mean, how he's slaughtering innocent civilians, including children in Ukraine with this invasion of a sovereign country, committing war crimes. He's freaking awesome. So smart. I mean, it's all a game to these people. It's all just a game to these people. That's all it is.
So I interviewed John Ziegler, who's a conservative, and we talked it through earlier today on the conversation. And look, of course, there's varying opinions. In fact, we're going to show you ones that are Republicans that are completely on the opposite side in a second. But for the ones that are on Putin's side, I mean, we just showed you the video of them saying, if he was here, I'd join him, right? It's mainly racial. We showed you the shirts, rather be a Russian than a Democrat, because they view Democrats as the others, minorities and people they can't relate to. They look at Putin and they're like, oh, a tyrant who's white and oppresses everyone that doesn't look like him. That sounds pretty good. That sounds really good. Plus, of course, Trump was pro-Russian and pro-Putin because he was largely getting paid by Russian oligarchs earlier in his career, wanted more, etc. So when you throw in Trump and race, yeah, you're going to get a significant chunk of Republicans who go, yay, Putin. Of course, what's hurting that cause is the Ukrainians are also white. And so as they see them bravely fighting back, a lot of Republicans are going, I don't know, man, they look a lot like us. Maybe we shouldn't support the Russians.
You know, one thing that I can really appreciate even as a progressive was the amount of deep critical thinking that was taking place at CPAC, particularly among attendees like the one you're about to hear from. Let's watch.
The war in Ukraine could have been avoided with having our own oil independence.
So you think there's more that you think if we had been independent in terms of energy, the war in Ukraine would not have happened?
I'm not going to say that. Could have been avoided with having our own oil independence.
And what would Trump have done differently in your estimation?
I don't know.
Look, obviously I was being sarcastic when I tossed to that video. Not a lot of critical thinking going on with that answer, clearly. Look, I don't want to be too harsh, but I just ask people to think critically and think through, like when they hear a talking point from people in positions of power, whether it be members of the media or politicians, when they don't just regurgitate what they're saying. This is a talking point among Republicans. Oh, this wouldn't have happened if we were energy independent. But the Green New Deal, which has never been passed and has never been implemented, really screwed us over because we've been so dependent on Russia for oil. We're the top oil producing country in the world, okay? We import a tiny amount of oil from Russia compared to how much we produce here. And by the way, how much we produce and export. And we'll get to more details about that in a later story. But obviously she didn't think things through, right? She just heard the talking point and thought, let me just regurgitate it in the context of this interview and try to sound like I know what I'm talking about. But all it takes is one tiny follow-up to make it abundantly clear that you have no idea what you're talking about. Don't just regurgitate what people in positions of power tell you. Please, I'm begging you.
So we've interviewed a lot of Trump supporters and Republicans over the years. We sent a lot of reporters, and I've seen a lot of the raw footage. So we're not leaving a lot of things on the cutting room floor. Most of them are deeply irrational. And so that's why I've done the warnings on air, because we do this very regularly. We've done it for years. And so before everybody realized how dangerous and unbalanced some of the Trump supporters were, we were like, warning, warning. And by the way, we still say that about a deep well of anti-Semitism that exists in the right wing in this country that people still haven't caught on to. But we're gonna show you some exceptions in a second. Unfortunately, that particular lady was the rule, not the exception. Most of the time, they have no idea what they're talking about.
Right, I mean, she hasn't really thought it through. That's my point, right? It's not like she's a well-informed person who has a really bad take on what's taking place right now. She just heard the talking points, which I'm sure have been repeated over and over again on right-wing media, and just decided to say the same thing without considering whether or not what she's hearing is true. Now look, there was a split reaction to this question posed by David Schuster. There were certainly attendees who are not in favor of what Putin is doing. In fact, this next video features a Trump supporter, a conservative, who was actually surprised to find that Trump said some pretty complimentary things about Putin even as this invasion was underway. Let's watch.
Donald Trump said of Vladimir Putin's invasion, how smart is that?
How smart is that? That's what he said. For them to invade, I think it's horrific. I mean, I'd like to know more about the context of why he would say something like that.
Yesterday, reporters asked me if I thought President Putin was smart. I said, of course he's smart, to which I was greeted with, oh, that's such a terrible thing to say. I'd like to tell the truth. Yes, he's smart.
He said this is genius.
Genius? No, don't agree with that.
And she wasn't the only one who didn't agree with that. So I want to give those individuals some credit, but he made those statements at CPAC,
like, where they are,
where they're at. I mean, maybe she's not that much of a Trump supporter if she didn't care to see his speech at the same event that she's attending. So who knows?
No, but people have no idea what's going on. And maybe she had to man a booth and stuff. No, I give her a lot of credit. And by the way, the next guy you saw there for a second, he was also super reasonable. I was actually shocked by that. And we wanted to show it to you guys because we're harsh on Republicans, but we're fair. So if they say good things, I go, okay, great, let's show them the good things, right? They were both totally reasonable. And we're like, no, I don't care that Trump said it. It doesn't make sense, and I disagree with it. I'm like, all right, attaboy, there you go. That wasn't so hard, was it? Okay.
It's my dream in life to work on his campaign in 2024, and I will do anything I can to make that happen, and I think Donald Trump is the answer.
How do you know that Donald Trump is still the president?
Because he should be, because the election was stolen.
How come none of the courts accepted any of the evidence? There was no evidence.
There was a lot of evidence. The bellwether states, I mean, there was so much common sense evidence that they just didn't want to look at.
There's also common sense evidence that Joe Biden won by 7 million votes.
No.
FJB, let's go, Brandon. What does it really mean?
It means Joe Biden.
It's a little bit coarse, isn't it?
Who cares?
He's too old. He don't know what he's doing.
He gave a pretty good speech yesterday about Ukraine. Did you see it?
No, because I don't like to see Biden speaking.
And you're a Donald Trump supporter. How come?
Absolutely. I love him. I love him because I love the truth.
Save America is the big one right now. Everyone loves that, right? We also, free speech, people are drawn to that as well.
I'm just now on a 30-day ban because I use the acronym STFU for shut the F.
Do you have any sympathy, therefore, for Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, who got stripped from the Republican Party?
No, I don't.
They got canceled.
Yeah. So what?
You were just saying a minute ago that you didn't like being canceled.
Doesn't matter. They're traitors to the country.